silently walk in here and just stand there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You shut the door now?
All right, get her fixed up. Patients coming in, clinic's rolling because it's 9 o'clock, and that's why. Welcome. We are live on the Institute of Clinical Excellence Instagram, Facebook account. It's Friday. This is the PT on Ice Daily Show. It's Fitness Athlete Friday, and I am your faculty member, Mitch Babcock. So pumped to be taking the mic again. That's Alan behind me. He's off to go treat some patients. We got Joellen off to treat some patients. We're having a great day in the clinic here at Health HQ. I hope you guys are as well. This is the first this is the first 9 a.m. PT on Ice show, right? So from now on, this will be the new start time. This is a little easier for our West Coasters to join us. So I hope some of you that are joining us live from the West Coast are enjoying your coffee this morning. If it's too late for you on the East Coast and you're already busy seeing patients, I hope that you will grab the download and check us out on Spotify podcasts or catch the rewind back on Facebook or Instagram. So nonetheless, thank you guys for being live. Today's topic is dissecting a fitness athlete treatment session. And what I posted last night on the Instagram was that, hey, this show is going to be based off of this video that Alan put up. And it was, if you want to look back on the Institute's Instagram page, you can find it. It's titled Excellence Looks Different. It's a black square, white text, Excellence Looks Different. Click on that post and you can watch what I'm talking about. But it's just a short minute-and-a-half video kind of chopped together of a couple treatment sessions working with a CrossFit athlete at our clinic here. And I felt that it was worthy of a discussion. It was worthy of a few talking points around why did we decide to put that out, A, for one, and B, what about that session is important to look at. So we were talking, we've done a number of cohorts of Essential Foundations online, all of them getting better than the last one, but we get a bunch of questions that ultimately revolve around, I just don't know what a treatment session looks like with a CrossFit athlete, with a fitness athlete. We're kind of ingrained, maybe some of us from our schooling or the clinics that we work and treat out of, in how we have a hard time breaking free from what that treatment session looks like to what do you guys do on the daily? What do you guys do in your gym and in your treatment center? So that's why I was like, Alan, I think that we should put a video together that looks at a treatment session start to finish or crops a few components out of it that are important and worth looking at and start the conversation around it. So that's what I want to do today, right? So if you watch that video, you saw Alan working with a female fitness athlete in the gym. She was dealing with some low back pain stuff that Alan was working around. Trust me, we got full permission for her to talk about, to film that video, A, for one, and then to talk about it. So we'll deal with a little back pain stuff with some fitness athlete related movements, particularly pulling bars from the ground, deadlifts and cleans, and was having some issue with things like burpees and rowing and things that were going to move her spine flexion extension, right? So that's the basic synopsis of it. Now let's jump into what you saw in the video. The first thing that you see Alan doing is visit 3, strengthening the back. I'm going to pause there because I think a lot of us forget to strengthen the back when we're dealing with back pain. A lot of us maybe divert to core strengthening or divert to looking at mechanics. All of those are also in play. Like, there's an adage in weight training, powerlifting, and CrossFit that no one ever regrets getting their midline stronger. And that's true. Like, training the core is important, but understand that when you have a weak low back contributing to some back pain, you need to strengthen that back, and it needs to look specific to back strengthening, right? And so what Alan was going with there initially in the video was a GHD back extension drill, where he was cueing the patient into a proper spinal alignment position and activating the erectors a bit, activating the glutes and the hamstrings, and challenging the spine into an isometric position at the top of that back extension position, and then back down again and doing a handful of reps and sets there to fatigue and to exhaustion, right? So I find that to be an important point that we often overlook, and you hear me talk about that a bunch. I'm sure on podcasts in the past, and if you're in our cohorts online, you'll hear me talk about that. I've got these little wings flying away in my hat. I need a haircut, guys. I know. I'm working on it, okay? But you'll hear us talk a lot about back strengthening. So that was part 1. What you didn't see leading up to that, before they got started on back strengthening, was the whiteboard roundup, right? Getting the athlete at the whiteboard and say, hey, here's the intent of our session together. Here's the focus of what I want to work on. We need to get your back stronger to a point that we can start pulling bars off the ground, doing full deadlifts, doing full cleans, and getting you back to full speed that you don't need me anymore and you can re-enter CrossFit classes. Here's how we plan on doing that. We're going to start with a couple back strengthening drills. We're going to check your tolerance to those, check your symptoms, see how you feel, and if going well, we'll progress to an elevated surface deadlift. That's kind of my goal for session 3. That's what I want to accomplish. So that's what you saw Alan do next, was elevated surface deadlift. So this is something that we initiate quite early in the low back pain treatment sequence, where you're going to start picking stuff up off the floor. I'm going to be cueing and correcting you through technique, positions, and how to perform that. But I need to see you pull heavy stuff off the ground, right? And that's how we're going to continue to get the back stronger as well, right? We're not going to be able to avoid the deadlift and fully rehab someone's back pain to a point where they're ready to reintroduce themselves back into CrossFit. You have to do that, and the earlier the better is what we have found from getting results prognostically. So you see Alan elevate the surface with a set of 45s. That brings it up about 2 to 3 inches off the floor and can start really drilling in on mechanics as far as keep the back neutral, drive through the ground with the legs. Let's not extend the back, pull with the back. Instead, think about pushing with the legs through the deadlift, right? And then what you saw was Alan load up the bar heavier. You see him slap on a set of white 5s on the white 10s on the end of the bar and make a 20-pound jump. And that's important too, right? There's a component of, like, as a therapist, seeing an athlete perform a lift, making it look really easy, and like just going ahead and being like, that's too light for you, right? I can see that your abilities are exceeding what I'm having you do right now. I want to match your strength and your symptoms where you're at to what you can do on the bar. And so that's what Alan did, just loaded it up. We talk about this a bunch, and people laugh in our essentials cohort that week 1, people show us some pretty decent movement, but it's pretty light, right? And then the feedback we give most folks after week 1 is load it up heavier. And so by the time the cohort's done, everyone's like, man, we get it, load it up some more, right? But that's what Alan was doing in the video. And it's worth noting, like, if you see bar speed looking fast, if you see mechanics looking really sound, and you check with their symptoms and they're still at a manageable level, your next step is to load it up. Well, right? If what we're going to do is strengthen this area, it needs to be at a level that's going to create change and adaptation. So make that jump and load the bar up for your patients. Now, the last thing that you see in that video that I'm talking about today, Alan's treatment session, again, if you want to look at that, Instagram, look for the video that's titled Excellence Looks Different and watch that video. The last thing that you see him do is a sample Metcon, right? A metabolic conditioning workout, a classic CrossFit workout, if you will, of, it's a triplet, it's some rowing and some block clean and jerks, and it is some burpees, right? Why is this important? This was session 6, I believe, at this point when he's doing this Metcon, but remember the goal. The goal is to get back to CrossFit classes, right? And within 6 sessions, we're already to a point where the back pain is manageable and we're getting stronger, and we're thinking like, hey, am I about ready to go back to CrossFit? Rather just saying like, try it. Why don't you see? Instead, make your treatment session look a lot like a CrossFit class. Let's put them through some intensity. Mechanics are good. Consistency is there. Now let's start to dial up the intensity component a little bit and see if the athlete starts to break down their technique, starts to have symptoms under heavier load, under higher intensity, under a higher respiratory rate. All these sorts of things that I need to be able to evaluate one-on-one, and not wait until they're dropped into a class with 15 other athletes and hope that they're able to self-regulate their positions. Because honestly, they're just not going to be able to. So let's sample what it looks like to get back to a CrossFit workout. Let's put this triplet together of 3 movements that historically all 3 could flare up or bother the back. And let's see if our rowing mechanics look better, if I'm able to maintain a better, more upright posture on the rower, a more upright receiving position when I bring the handle in, and not pulling with my back when I pull the rower, driving with my legs just like I would do a deadlift. The clean and jerks. A lightweight, right? We're having them do a handful of reps, 5 to 10 reps on the block clean and jerks, and they are elevated again. So the athlete doesn't have to go all the way to the floor, but they can work on moving a barbell and focusing on a neutral spine position in the hinge position that we traditionally struggle with. And then the last is burpees, right? Going to a modified burpee technique where the athlete's stepping down and stepping back up, where they can kind of manage some of that extreme extension and flexion that tends to come with some burpees when the athlete is jumping themselves to the ground. hey, what do you say that we go with a stepping burpee, see if we can complete that, keep your heart rate at a good level, but also make sure that you don't have symptoms doing the burpee, right? So all of that had a focus, had a point. It wasn't just, hey, I'm bored of treatment now, let's crush you with a Metcon. No, at that point in the treatment, the next thing to tackle on the list was stepping them back into class, and I need to sample some of those things, control the time domain, control the total number of reps, control the movements being utilized, and see how the athlete does. If I need to make changes to that Metcon on the fly based on symptoms, I can reevaluate, after round 1, how are you feeling, what's your pain at? Round 2, same question, right? I could make changes to load in real time. That bar looks too heavy. Your mechanics are starting to break down. Hey, you're kind of forgetting the mechanics we talked about on the rower. I need you to go back to focusing on that. That may mean regulating their pace on the rower a little bit and shifting into another stroke rate that allows them to maintain a good position. All of that I can do if it's a one-on-one personal training physical therapy session, right? There's a lot of merit to that. And honestly, when we're working with these CrossFit athletes, they find more value in that than they do anything else because that's what they want to do. It's like taking your runner out when you've returned them to running and you and the runner go on like a 2-mile run together, right? And you're running alongside them, you're calling out their cadence and you're asking them what their foot strike, you know what I mean? And you're talking to them about their respiratory rate and you're trying to follow up symptoms on them. Like that treatment session of you running alongside the athlete, going and knocking out 2 miles together and being like that, I got more out of that treatment session than I have in anything else. And that's the same thing that we're doing with CrossFit athletes when we're saying this is the workout. I may make some changes on the fly, but ultimately I need to know that you passed this test before we send you out into classes and feel confident about that, right? In a nutshell, do they all look like that? Absolutely not. We get the question a lot of like, well, is there any work done in the office, in the treatment room? And sure, like there is. We try to reduce that as much as possible, right? There's manual therapy involved. There's some dry needling, spinal manipulation, or whatever needs to happen from a manual therapy standpoint to get somebody to the point where we can execute those movements. But as soon as we can get them out in the gym and they don't need that stuff anymore, we pitch it because I can get more done out in the gym. I get a more effective session watching you move, lift, load, do a Metcon than I can just leaving you on the table on your stomach for 15 to 20 minutes. So it's an and not or. It depends on where they're at. It depends on how irritable their condition is at the time. Symptom behavior model, we're keeping that in check. But what you saw was session 3 and a little bit from session 6 where we're progressing that athlete and trying to get them back to CrossFit classes. And that's what it looks like for us, taking the athlete, putting them in their world, and watching them do the movements that they need to be able to do back in class. Go back and watch that video if you haven't yet. Try to pick up on some stuff that looks different. Like, what about what Alan's doing with this patient have I never done with a patient before in the past? Have I ever evaluated someone's modified deadlift position from elevated surface? Have I ever put them through a sample CrossFit workout? Do I even know what that looks like, right? Or am I having to ask them what a CrossFit workout might look like? I mean, there's a lot of gaps that potentially need to be filled there. The good news is we got a lot of courses that help fill them, right? So if you find yourself in the position of like, man, I don't know the first place to start with any of this stuff. That treatment session looked like another language. It was like trying to read Mandarin, right? Like if that's you, you need to find yourself in our next cohort of essential concepts because these people are in your community, they're training, and they need to come see you to get better if they run into issues, and you need to be able to handle that and do it appropriately for them. So unfortunately, the one that started last week is full, but you can jump into the September one. And that brings me to the last point of the podcast, which is to tell you about what's coming up. So as things start to, hopefully, fingers crossed, get back to some semblance of normalcy, we've got some courses on deck. We've got Zach next weekend in Tulsa doing cervical spine. So that's Zach Morgan, Tulsa doing cervical spine. If you want to know all things treating the neck, cracking the neck, interventions for the neck, lifestyle modifications for living a healthier life and dealing with less neck pain overall, Zach Morgan's your guy. Go check him out in Tulsa next week. If you want to see total spine manipulation, you want to know how to crack neck to toes, no, not toes, neck to sacrum and everything in between, you can find Justin Dunaway Total Spine in Nebraska next weekend. Lindsay the following weekend, that's 3 weeks from now, Lindsay will be in Baton Rouge doing extremity management, all things arms, shoulders, knees, hips, legs. And then the big one, the one that I really want you to notice is our annual ICE sampler course, which we normally do, get a lot of the faculty members together in one location. We have a really cool blowout weekend of a bunch of different content. We're taking that online this year. And rather than kind of a blow, I'm seeing this one as a big victory because I think that we can get a lot more folks to access a ton of great content for a lot of CEUs right from your living room in one weekend. So check out the ICE online sampler this year. Hopefully it'll be the only year that we have to do it online. And it might be something really cool that you don't want to miss out on. So we're looking at August 8th and 9th that weekend. Alan and I are broadcasting live from our gym, CrossFit Fenton. We may have a few guests with us here. Got a handful of other faculty that are going to be talking that day and then on Sunday as well, broadcasting live from their home departments. And I don't know, it's gonna be really sweet. We could have a couple hundred people from all over joining us for the sampler. So you're going to want to be one of them. August 8th and 9th, CEUs right from your couch from the sampler. Okay, that's what I got. We're right at 15 minutes. Thanks for hitting us at the new hour, 9 o'clock. Again, all PT on Ice episodes are shifting to 9 Eastern time. So be looking for those. Tell your friends about it. Download the podcast if they haven't yet, and have a listen. We would really appreciate it. So thanks so much for your time. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I hope that I will be seeing you back in Fitness Athlete real soon. Take care. Have a good one. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.